Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Float, Odyssey, Telegram, and Twitch. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is July 30th, 2022, and this is episode 146 of the Workshop Podcast. Streaming all across the interwebs this evening. I was going to say, what a wonderful, fine Saturday evening it is. We ended up having a reprieve from the heat here today, kind of. So that was a bonus. Real quick, it's going to be one of those hodgepodge grab bag episodes tonight. Never really know how to intro these, but we've got a bunch of cool little topics I want to talk about. The big one, or the first one I'm going to focus on after we get through the announcements, is my experiment or my experience with the Fountain podcast player / app, whatever you want to call it so far, why I love it, what I've learned. And yeah, we'll dive into that in a minute. So real quick, Liberty says hello from Telegram. So we're good over there. Thank goodness. That's good. We're 100% sure. Number one, if you guys are not a part of the Telegram group, come by and join us. I love that group. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little taste of Telegram later on tonight. We are going to talk. I'm going to walk us through kind of a community interaction we had in the group earlier this week. I'm going to show you the value of having a great community with a lot of like-minded, get shit done kind of people who have way more good than I could come up with on my own. So if you're not there, grab that link from whatever you're listening to this show on tonight and come by and join us. If you've been listening to the podcast or over on YouTube for a long time and you haven't found that spot to become part of the Telegram workshop community, Telegram's the spot. Okay, now I have mentioned this a few times, a couple times anyway. I am just getting ready to start booking out my interviews for the final quarter of the year. So, basically September, October, November, December. So the last 4 months of the year. So if you're interested, or if you have suggestions for people you'd love to see come on this show, let me know. I would love to have you. Also, if we had any guests we've had in the past that you guys really, really enjoyed, let me know. And I'm always open to having them back. We got Andy booked to come back and talk about tech again. That was a huge hit with you guys, which was great. I got Ryan Buford from the Next Gen podcast. He's coming back on. That'll be his third appearance, I want to say, other than my wife. That'll be a record. And yeah, so if you've got other people that you'd love to see on here, Mike Rowe, of course, everybody, I keep reaching out. I've sent another email yet again. I got to come up with something a little more ingenious or off the beaten path to grab his attention, but we'll get him on here eventually. And coming up, let's see, we got less than 2 months now. Prepper Camp is coming live in North Carolina, Saluda, North Carolina, the last weekend in September. I'm going to be there live in person doing a presentation on preparedness. I'm really, really excited about that, guys. I can't wait to get back stateside. So I'm going to be there for 3 days, doing the presentation 3 days in a row. Then I'm going to be hopping on my horse and galloping across the country, kind of down to Tennessee to Self-Reliance Festival. So either place, if you'd like to meet up in person, let me know. I would gladly meet you there. Bring you some stickers. We'll have a chat. And yeah, I cannot wait for the contacts I'm going to make at these events. I'm absolutely stoked. Can I still use that word? Sure, why not? All right. Today's tool is the 3M work tunes. You guys have heard me talk about those before. They were a game changer for me. I use them every single time I'm on my zero-turn mower. They are Bluetooth hearing protection that allows me to listen to audiobooks anytime I want, no matter how kind of noisy the background is. They just work great, and I don't have to crank them all the way up and make myself deaf listening to an audiobook over the sound of an engine. So if you're looking for those, I got that in the chat tonight. I threw it in the description. But yeah, even if you just want to check them out, the link's there. You can run through, and it's an easy way to support the workshop and the stuff that I do. So it's Saturday. We're going to start off with a This Week in the Workshop segment. Before we do that, though, I threw over on the side, I'm going to leave some time available for questions. I always do anyway, but specifically tonight, this is more of a laid-back Saturday evening show. So any of you guys out there that have any questions, comments, news articles, whatever you want me to throw up and get involved with this show, feel free to do it. I will star them, save them in the background as we go along, and we'll have a good conversation. So number one, first thing this week in the workshop, always love to fill you in on what's going on. Well, the Cook household has survived the dreaded, awful COVID, whatever you want to call it. We made it through. I'm on the other side. I've been back to work since Wednesday. Becky's still under the weather, but she's doing better. It beat the snot out of us, but it wasn't that bad. It just kind of sucked. I still am not quite back to where I was, but it is what it is. It just really, really knocked the snot out of us and kind of made you feel like crap. And like everybody said, it was something totally different. We kept thinking, hey, we're going to make it. We're going to get through this and never, ever find it. Well, they'd found us anyway. And here we are. We're doing okay now, though. My voice is, I went from a 14-year-old teenage boy to maybe a 17-year-old now. So it's much better. And yeah, so we've made it through. The kids seem to have dodged the bullet. The younger kids anyway, older ones, not so much. Now we had some time to watch some movies. If you guys haven't seen it yet, this has absolutely nothing to do with preparedness whatsoever, and that's totally fine. Do yourself a favor and watch The Black Phone. It was a great film. We had a lot of fun watching it, Becky and I. It's just such a throwback. It takes place in the late 70s. It just kind of has that, it's like an R-rated Stranger Things kind of, and it's a horror movie, but it's not a horror movie. It's just a grounded, well done 80s, 70s kind of film. And if you want to see a guy who doesn't normally play bad guys, Ethan Hawke is an incredible bad guy in this. I don't want to spoil anything, but great film if you have the chance. I didn't bring it down. Next, I wanted to show you guys, I'm going to do a review on this, but I picked up a new wallet. This one came from SOE, Special Operations Equipment, John Willis down in Tennessee. It's multicam black, really nice fold-up wallet. Feels like I could tow a truck with it or a trailer. It is well built, like a brick shithouse. I've been really impressed with it. By the time I got it shipped up here to Canada, of course, the Canadian government had to put their hand in it and, add a little fee to it, but it was well worth the investment. I'll do a follow-up review on it, but I've been very, very pleased. Not that we had any doubts on any of the stuff John makes, but this wallet is awesome. It was time because my old Velcro one is finally worn out. The one that Alice or Gracie got me for Christmas. So another thing, what else we've been working on? So we've got an ancient, pay coin operated dryer in one of the apartments I look after. Never had to repair one before. So we had the repair company up this week and they replaced the igniter on it. Well, turns out there's not much to those little pay dryers. He opened it up and I'm like, If I'd have known what I was replacing, it would not have been difficult at all. But the thing's old enough that it's getting really difficult to find parts for. So the next time around, we're going to have to probably replace it. Or, well, the owner of the building is. But I was impressed that we were able to get an igniter for a dryer that's probably 40 some years old. And they had it in stock. Great company. And they fixed it the very next day. That made me very, very happy. If you guys haven't heard me talk about how much I love my wicking bed, and if you've never built a wicking bed, do yourself a favor and build yourself a wicking bed. My very first wicking bed that I built was a mess. I decided I was going to build a raised bed, so it was up off the ground with a false bottom, and that was nothing but a trap for leaks. And the first one I built actually collapsed. So even though I'm supposedly handy, doesn't mean that I always am. So this year, even with the heat that we've had, I've only had to water it about 3 times. You add mulch on top, makes a huge difference. It just stays damp and moist all the time. It holds the heat in. If you haven't looked at them, do yourself a favor, buy yourself a piece of pond liner and build a wicking bed. Wow. It's changed our growing game. We're going to, I always say this, but we're going to build 2 or 3 more next year. Hey, Food by Dave. How are you? Says, I still need to build a wicking bed. I share this stuff just so you know that it is possible. I don't ever want to throw it on you so that you feel like you got to build one. But I'm telling you, if you can find time, they're awesome. I love them. I used, for the record, 4-inch flexible drainage pipe with the slots in it. I learned so many mistakes from the first one, but I made sure I put an overflow drain in this one. That was a huge mistake from the first. I laid it, the cloth is right to the ground this time so that it doesn't have any, nothing can pull on it and stretch it and rip it over time, which is good. Then I put my gravel/sand, buried that. Then I put a layer of weed cloth, about 3 layers of weed cloth back and forth. That just helps the soil from sliding down into the dirt. Then I topped it off with some beautiful soil. I even put a bin of my worms in there, and we've had just great luck. Whole bunch of volunteer vine plants of some sort, whether it's squash, I don't even know what it is yet, but whether it lasts or not, I don't know. We're going to end up building a little mini greenhouse over it to hopefully extend the fall end of things by about a month. But I love it. It's great. We've got our comfrey in there. We have blueberries. We have raspberries, I believe, and we have some rhubarb. So anyway, that I'd like to build 2 or 3 more of those. I built them 4 by 8, and they're easy to reach. I have them right up against my fence, and yeah, anyway, just been great for us. So Wednesday evening, I spent a ton of time with my IT guy, Josh, PA Prepper. You see him in our live stream sometimes. Just a good friend, an all-around great guy who can help you with anything. He helped me put together the backbone of the Patch of the Month Club. So it is, how do you want to put this? It's officially done. I could open it up tonight for subscribers, but I need to slick it up a little bit. We need to do an unveiling of the first couple of patches. So that is coming really, really, really soon. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks, Josh, for all your help with that. I got to tell you. Now, if you guys remember Andy, we had Andy on a little while ago. A really awesome episode on free and open source software. So I wanted to give him and you guys a bit of an update on how things have been going. I told him I was going to download Bitwarden. I have it. I've been using it on my Windows computer, and I have it linked on my iPhone as well. So far, so good. I'm still working through the comfort level, remembering to use it instead of my Google password manager, but I like it. I like it quite a bit. And something else that came out of that episode, I know I throw things out to you guys sometimes. I was looking for the best Windows-based open source video software, video editing software. And I wrote down, Evan Young over on Float sent me a suggestion of OpenShot video editing software. If you guys haven't used it, I love it. He was absolutely 100% correct. It runs just like iMovie, and I love the simplicity of iMovie. I've been playing with it. It is now my video editor for Windows. So if you're looking for a free open source Windows solution to editing videos, OpenShot is the way to go. Now, here's something. I don't know how. I haven't, but I have just recently fallen down the Wrangler Star a rabbit hole. If you guys haven't watched his stuff, I don't know how I haven't before. He's kind of like preparedness meets homesteading meets handyman / carpentry. His videos are incredible. So he actually had one the other day, how you could jumpstart your car using a chainsaw. It was pretty friggin' ingenious. So if you guys haven't watched him, I'm sure you have, and most of you are like screaming at your earbuds right now, Tim, what's wrong with you? How have you not listened to him before? But if you haven't, give yourself the opportunity to check out some of his content, because man, he's incredible. Well, it was too hot yesterday, so I ended up changing out a ceiling fan or a bathroom exhaust fan for the missus and put in a daylight LED light fixture in the bathroom. They were both well overdue. She'd been at me for a while to do it, and it's in and done. The fan was a Panasonic. I think it's called a Whisper Quiet 110 CFMs. The thing is awesome. Very impressed with that. And then the LED light for the time being was just like a direct wire fixture from Amazon for about $30, and the thing lights up like there's no tomorrow. So pretty impressed with that. Picked up the materials to do my little fence extension. If you guys are anything like me, so when I plan projects, I have to plan them out in sections and segments. And so here's the thing. I've got a bunch of jobs I want to get done for the rest of the summer. And that's including finishing the driveway extension, resodding the backyard, extending the fence a bit so that my man door is in the backyard instead of out in the driveway, and getting some work done at the daycare. Now, the thing is, everything has to be done step by step. In order for me to get a skid steer into the backyard, I have to modify my fence. So that's the very first thing, because once I modify the fence, then I can rent the skid steer to do the work in the backyard, to move the sea can over, to fix my driveway, and to do work at the daycare. But until I can get in my backyard, I can't do any of it. So if you're like me, step by step, but I've got to get one done so the next one can get done. And it's time to get shit done. I love getting this stuff done in the summertime, but I don't want to run out of time. And I feel like I am. I know you guys have a lot longer outdoor working seasons than I do, but I got about 2-3 months left. So it's time to get my ass in gear with that kind of stuff. Little update on the price of gas up here in Canada, where I live. It's down about 25% from its highest, which is great. We were at I think it was about $1.97 a liter at its highest, and right now it's $1.59 per liter. So that was all of that's a bonus. Anytime we can save a little bit of money on that. Now, here is the big one that I have been. So Becky and I had a long chat last night about how to get the most value out of going to these big events, right? So I'm going to prepper camp. I'm going to SRF, and Becky asked me, she goes, well, what didn't you have at the spring workshop at Nicole's that you would have liked to have had? And I had to think about it for a bit. For me, it was an easy way to collect contact information. So if anybody has a suggestion on this, you can email me or you can throw it in the comments, whatever it is. But for the biggest benefit of going to these is meeting like-minded individuals and then finding people that you want to follow up with, whether it's interviews or live streams or collaborations or whatever. I need a way to quickly download that kind of information into my phone, into paper, whatever you think it is. So whatever you guys have for a suggestion, that's what I've been looking for. A way to collect and bring together as many individuals as I meet in the short. I'm not going to have her with me at these next two events. And here's the problem. I forget shit like crazy, and through no fault of anything you did, I will forget to write down who I met, what I met them for, what I want to do with all of that. So I need a way to do that. I need to hack my brain or whatever you want to call it. So we need a program for that. Anyway, started the new audio series. This one's called Lights Out. If anybody out there's read it, let me know. So far, I've been pretty impressed. It's a lady does the reading of it, the narrating. It sounds familiar. I think I've listened to another book with her in it before, but it gets right to the action. There's no messing around. Oh yeah, it's so far I've been pretty impressed. Okay, so the main section of tonight's episode is about fountain.fm. So if you guys don't know what Fountain is, it's well, some of you probably do because you're probably listening to this podcast right now on Fountain. So it's a brand new podcast 2.0 app. I'm sure you've heard Jack Spirko talk about it a bunch. It's a way to make money listening to podcasts, and it's a way to make money having other people listen to your podcasts. And Brian and Josh, Brian from Lots Project, Josh from Liberty Meats, had been beating me up about getting in on the Lightning Network. So none of this needs to be complicated. So I don't want any of this to sound complicated to you. But if you guys know, I'm a sucker for sticking with the apps that I've used. And ever since I've gotten into podcasts, I have used Apple Podcasts. So we're talking 7+ years now. I've been listening on mobile, and I've used Apple Podcasts. Well, I've switched to the Fountain player 100%, and I haven't looked back. I love it. It has all the features and all the reliability of Apple with some extras. Hey, Rachel Brown, good to have you. So if you're looking for a well-built, reliable podcast player alone, that's the way to do it. Now, it has some features. So if you haven't been following or haven't been trying out Fountain yet, give it a shot. Okay. So first off, there's a ton of like-minded freedom folk in there. So if you're listening to this podcast, there's a really good chance that you're a libertarian or an anarchist or a homesteader or a DIYer, all of that. There's a ton of built-in audience over at Fountain already. They have the ability to do promotions. We'll talk about that a bit. And they have one of the coolest things I've seen, I think, a brand new feature I hadn't seen anywhere, but the way to share clips from your podcast or other people's podcasts. It also has a built-in Bitcoin wallet. It's actually the smaller denomination of Bitcoin, Satoshis. I don't want to dig into that too much. I said I don't want this to be too complicated, but basically you have a wallet where you can give people cents or you can make cents in dollars for doing the normal things you normally do with a podcast already. So I basically started out. So Food by Dave says others have said Fountain was buggy for them, but it has worked well for me. Now, okay, I have. It hasn't been without its hiccups. Absolutely. So when you have a new program, you're going to have a few issues. But what I got to say is, I liken it to when I started on Float. Float was a hot mess when it started. It's not perfect now, but when it first started, it was awful. It was barely usable, but I wanted to support what it stood for, and I stuck with it. The thing about Fountain is they've worked most of their bugs through already, at least on the iPhone end of things. And the other people I know that have been using it on Android have had really good luck with it so far. Now, like I said, it's not without its hiccups. For about 4 or 5 days, I wasn't able to do the clip feature. That's the only real issue I found with it so far. As far as making money, you're not going to get rich off it yet, but you're earning actual, real Bitcoin while interacting on that app. Can't go wrong with that. It's not some kind of shit coin. It's not, I don't want to slam, but I mean, it's not like Odyssey with library coin that at one time, it was worth, I don't know what I have now is worth, $5 worth of library coin. And at one time it was worth probably 1,000. So yeah, there's that. But Bitcoin, I mean, if any single coin is going to stick around, any certain type, it's going to be Bitcoin. Everything else might go by the wayside, but at least Bitcoin's there. And the Lightning wallet, yeah, like I said, not too difficult. But so what do I think of the platform itself? Well, I love it. It's a really, it has everything that you would expect. So like I said, if you're typically using Apple Podcast, for instance, you won't miss any features and everything will be intuitive. So what have I done on there so far? So let's talk about the clips first. So what's great is once your episode or anyone else's episode shows up, I can just hit clip, and within about 2 minutes, it will turn the entire audio into a text file in about 1 minute segments or smaller, depending on if it's different people talking. And what you do is you can just skip through, find the section you want, you highlight 1 or 2 sections, and then you clip it, and it turns it into a short version of MP3s, which is promoted in their clip section. So everybody gets to see new clips. And what it does is it exposes other users to the best of your content and to content creators that they might have not found otherwise. And it's totally free. And it's a really quick way. It's like the podcast is YouTube and the clip is TikTok. It's just a super simple way to introduce people to your podcast for free. And they can listen to it and they're like, oh, I kind of like this. And now it works. I enjoy it. And I've picked up a lot of followers. So okay, we'll hold that part right there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is their promotional end of things, because I am sure there's other ways to promote your podcast using like a pay to play kind of method. But with Fountain, it's been great. So I did one experiment with it. $50 US is the minimum you can put in with their promotion. You put in 50, 10 goes to the creators, $40 worth of that gets turned into Bitcoin and then rewards listeners for listening to your podcast. So I set it up, see if I can break this down. $40 US, give me like 180,000 Satoshis. And I made a minimum that you would earn 500 Satoshis for listening to my episode, which meant I would get basically very close to 1,000 paid listens. Thought that was kind of cool. So what I ended up getting, it said guaranteed around 900 paid listens. So my results from this, I got, according to their breakdown, I got 932 paid listens. However, on my end of things, I ended up seeing closer to 2,000 to 2,500 extra listens and extra downloads. So what I paid for, I ended up getting 2.5 to 3 times as much, and it puts it in front of people who are already kind of like-minded and interested. So, for $40, I ended up getting 2,000 or a little better downloads and listens, which was great. Love that. Now, it's been about 2 weeks since I ran the promotion. The money lasted about 4 days. And what I have noticed so far is my listens and downloads have held about a 20% increase in the 2 weeks following, which is absolutely great. Love it. So it wasn't like I just threw good money after bad or bad money after good. It seems like what it did was it exposed my content to people who are already interested in it, and it's held up. People have subscribed. I got quite a few. Another thing about, I think maybe, let me see if I can bring this up. Josh just put something up from Telegram. If we can find it, said for contacts. Okay, we'll bring that up here in a second. So you can also send messages in Fountain. So you can tip somebody using Satoshis, and in that tip, you can put a message like, hey, love this episode, gonna subscribe, shared your clip, whatever it happens to be. And it has that I love, because you get instant feedback from the audience. So if you're a content creator out there and you're looking for a way to invest a little bit of money in advertising, because how else do you cut through the clutter other than advertising? It's the way everything's done at this point. And I'm okay with reinvesting some of the money that I'm making from my from what I'm doing. Now, Liberty says the money to Fountain actually went to your listeners, which is even better. I did not know that. I thought only 80% of that went to the listeners. So that makes me really happy about that. They're just a great all-around program. I don't know the developers myself, but I know some of the guys do. So yeah, I've had really good luck. Now, as far as the clips go, slide back to that a little bit. I've been pulling clips out of my episodes for the last 3 weeks, 1 to 2 minute clips from each episode. And over 3 weeks, I've gone from 0 to 186 followers. So people follow you for your content. And what's great is when you click on the clip, there's a link right there to go to the full episode if you want. Show notes and everything. It's just a really quick and inexpensive way to promote yourself. And it's a really cool. So if you're a listener, it's a really great place to get exposed to new content creators who come from a field that you're probably already used to and you're already warmed up to. Rachel says, when something takes off as fast and as big as this did, they need time to keep up with input for updates. Absolutely. And that's a lot to do with, like I hate to liken it to Float, because Float is going through some real growing pains, but I'm also seeing that I think they're coming out the other side. The only thing that sucks is I feel like right at the moment, Float has lost a lot of the casual users, the people that were on there posting pictures of their cats and what they had for dinner. They don't seem to be around a whole lot. The same old Alex Jones types are on there. That's okay. But I really liked it when it was starting to expand into, I really don't give a shit about what you had for supper, but I don't mind seeing the pictures, that kind of thing. So I hope that it comes back around, but they do seem to be maybe finding their footing again. And I hope it's not too late for them. That's for sure. So next, had a question from Andy. So, and if you guys want follow-up on my experience with Fountain so far, first off, use it. But secondly, any questions, or if you have any issues with it, throw them my way and I'll share them with the community as well, because I don't want it to be just a one-sided kind of conversation. So when I put out for questions for the Thursday night episode, Andy sent a couple, and then he ended up sending one more that was a little got missed by it. And he says, hey, Tim, I'm a day late and $1 short as usual, but I got a question for you sometime. Or point me to one if you've answered, or point me to an answer if you've answered it before. And this is his question. He said, how do you handle working in multiple places? I got my shop, my barn, and out and about projects around the farm. And then I travel to work to other people's places. Do you organize things so they're easy to get into your shop, keep packing lists for jobs, or keep toolboxes packed and ready to go? So a little more effort to access in the shop, but grab and go for out and about. So I thought this was really good. A few things. When I first started doing what I do now, I was everywhere. What I ended up for a long time, I was doing these kind of long-term 6 to 18 month renovations on rentals. So what would end up happening was the guy that owned the place would have his trailer there. He would have his tools. Then I would bring my tools as I needed them. And then sometimes my tools would get mixed in with his tools, blah, blah, blah. The problem is that I was constantly chasing after stuff. So every time I needed it, I would, oh, where's my hammer? Well, it's over at Andre's place. I better go get it. Or, where's this? Where's that? So the first thing that I did over the last little 3 years was to develop my standard toolbox. So my brother-in-law, sister-in-law got me an awesome toolbox a few years ago. And so I call it my everyday carry toolbox. It's the toolbox that goes everywhere with me. So when I finish up for the day, that toolbox goes back in my truck and comes home with me because it's the toolbox that I use to go to the daycare and repair things for Becky there. It's a toolbox that I work out of in the garage. It's a toolbox that I work out of when I go and do a repair for someone at a property. So I have my grab and grow toolbox everywhere. I wasn't very good at that for a lot of months and a lot of years. And you can ask Becky, I'd be looking for a tool and I couldn't find it. Now, as far as bigger stuff, so if I'm doing a big flooring job, I'll take my sawhorses, my chop saw, all of that stuff, and I will set it up and I will leave it on site for as long as I need it because it's not the type of material that I'm going to use elsewhere. But for me, I've tried to pare down that everyday carry toolbox so that I know 95% of the tools I'm going to use and I can just grab and go. And if I go to a job, I take it and it comes home with me at the end of the day. Now, I also have a couple of drill bags. I say drill bags. Basically, whenever I go somewhere, I take my toolbox and I take my impact driver in a bag with a couple batteries and all the bits I need. I've got 2 of those bags because I'm kind of bad for leaving them behind sometimes. So those are the 2 things. I have a drill bag and I have my toolbox. And those are the things that I take with me and they come back. I never leave them on site anymore because it's always the items that I need. Anything bigger or more cumbersome, then yeah, I set it up and I leave it behind. But for me, I have worked really, really hard at figuring out what needs to be in my toolbox as a handyman, as a property manager, and all of those items stay in there. I'm anal about putting them back because when I forget them, I walk around like a little kid who can't find his toys and I get pissed off and Becky laughs at me. So I hope that helps a bit. For me, it's standardization. And I've expanded a bit too into things like I used to be a plumbing toolbox. And now what it is one of those quick seal DeWalt carry organizers, and I made some modifications so they hold a lot of the tools down in them, then all of the parts in and around it. I can grab that and go. And then I have 2 for hardware for like nuts and bolts and lag bolts. So I have all of those that I can grab and go, but I bring any of that stuff back with me. I may eventually, and this may sound like heresy, but I really love the Milwaukee pack-out systems. So I may implement something like that for my DeWalt cordless gear as well. But at the moment, all of that stays at the house or in the garage, except when I'm doing the occasional really big job, and then most of it goes on site and stays there. But I also know the importance of not leaving tools where someone else is going to be and putting them out of sight. So if I leave things at a rental, quite often when you're working rentals, of course, just remember there's no, most times there's no window coverings in a lot of these places you're renovating. So at nighttime, if there's a light on, they can look in and see your tools. So just put them down behind something. I know where I was working, I would put them down behind the kitchen cabinets just so people couldn't see them. Out of sight, out of mind, right? You don't want some crackhead coming along, busting out a window and stealing thousands of dollars worth of your DeWalt cordless gear simply because you left it out. Oh, right. Like I did last night, stupid dummy. I left my push mower and my weed whipper on the back of the truck because I forgot to put it back. It got rained on. Nobody stole it, but you know how it is. And yeah, hey, there's the Dixon way. Hey, Chris Dixon is no longer 50. I like that name, Mr. Dixon. He says, hey, Tim and workshoppers, the Milwaukee Packouts are awesome and so convertible. I think that'll be on my Santa Claus list this year. But yeah, that for whatever reason, the Packout is just so versatile and so much better than anything else anybody has. From what I've heard, the Ridget's really nice for the price. DeWalt's not bad. I'd like to go with DeWalt because it's compatible with my nuts and bolts carry cases, but the Packout from Milwaukee is just too damn good to turn down. So that'll be my next one. So next, guys, I wanted to give you guys a taste of what goes on in Telegram. So at least 3 times this week, someone has come in and said, hey, guys, I'm having a hell of a time getting started, or I'm having a heck of a time doing this, or a heck of a time doing that. I need advice. And I want to tell you, If there's one thing the Telegram workshop group is good at, it's telling people where to go and how to get there. Just kidding, but is sharing advice. And because we've all been there. And the great thing about having a like-minded community is always seeing people who want other people to succeed. If you're hanging around with a bunch of people, if you're hanging around with the must be nice crowd, get the hell out of there. Run, run, run. If you know anyone that says, oh, it must be nice that you're successful, get as far away from you as you can, away from them as you can. Now, if you're around people that say, good for you, go get it, here's how you can do better, those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with. And that is what I find all the time in the workshop Telegram group. So Mark, the other day, he is working on getting a woodworking business up and running, making things like charcuterie trays, cutting boards, just kind of small woodworking projects. And he said, so I've been getting some motivation after watching Tim and Nicole and Jack. He said, I've been working on my side hustle. Number one, great. Anyone have any suggestions for marketing stuff? I'm not really getting any responses on OfferUp, and I'm getting virtually no views on Facebook Marketplace. So curious if anyone has any advice on getting more eyes on my listings in those places, or if there's a better way to market those or better places. Now, the great thing was, Mr. Dixon there, Chris, he was gone for the evening. He shows up the next morning. He's like, holy cow. He said, I was like 127 missed messages. So over the next couple hours, the community just kind of come together and spammed Mark with ideas on where and how to sell the product. So I wanted to give you kind of a taste of how that works. So we went through, and the first thing a couple of people said is Facebook is pay to play now. So if you want to advertise it, because he said, I'm not getting any eyeballs on my marketplace stuff. And that's because Facebook doesn't reward you for just posting anymore. They reward you for boosting posts. So if you want to go that way, if you want to get in front of people, Facebook ads are very effective, but they cost you money. So other people had mentioned Nextdoor and Craigslist are still really, really good options. And if you want to kind of game the Facebook system a little bit, try to find local and regional Facebook groups that are kind of open to the idea of advertising. Those are some of the best ways on Facebook to get products out there. Now, this was again, he's looking to kind of launch a cutting board business. And a couple of people said boots on the ground, flyers, and open markets are good because, number one, especially markets, people are there. They're going there to buy that kind of stuff. They're going there to look for that kind of stuff. So take a minute, look around, because I'm on farmers markets, crafters markets, creators markets, that kind of stuff, because a lot of times it's the same type of people buying from the same type of people. But if you need to get your foot in the door, it could just be a way to try, or launch an Etsy, an eBay, or an Amazon site. As long as you know how much shipping is and you can get by with it, then yeah, do it. And like I said, if you can find seller-based groups on Facebook, things focused on charcuterie, home cooking, butchering. Now, here's the thing. I believe this was Josh that mentioned this, and he's absolutely right. And it's the Reddit mindset. So, number one, if you ever go on Reddit, the thing that people hate the worst over there is self-promotion. But they'll let it slide a bit if you're a integral part of the community. So if you spend time helping people, answering questions, offering advice, just being there, being a part of the community, then whatever community you're in is going to want to support you. They're going to be willing to put up with a little self-promotion in the good sense. But if you are a legitimate help to a certain community, they're going to be more apt to say, hey, what do you offer? What do you have to sell? I'd love to buy it. And sometimes you end up doing things like I did and buy a CD from Greg Arcade, even though I don't have a CD player, because I just want to support him in what he does. So that's the type of thing. Dig around in Telegram groups. There's some agorist, free market kind of groups in there. So check that out. Here was another suggestion that came his way. Partner with like-minded content creators and offer an affiliate program. So, if you want to get your material in front of somebody, say, hey, listen, you make content I really like. Would you be willing to talk about my product a little bit? And if you get any sales, then I will give you a little bit of kickback on the other end. It's a great win-win open market solution. Partner locally with restaurants, small businesses, food trucks, maybe trade some boards with some local restaurants for advertising. So you're like, okay, I'll give you a couple of these, but you need to place these in a prominent area with my name on them so that people will say, oh, that's really nice. Maybe I want to get some of those. Now, talk to wedding planners and wedding gift suppliers. That's another thing. So that's the type of thing that people like the high-end caterers and that sort of thing, they're going to be out there. They're looking for fancy charcuterie boards. That's a word I just learned. Can you tell? And food displays. It's big money. Talk to wine bars. Get your product in front of the people that want it. Non-chain hotels and bed and breakfasts, places that want to be unique. Get your product in front of them as well, because all it takes is getting an order from one bed and breakfast or one small scale hotel for, say, end tables or a bedside table, whatever it happens to be. One of them orders. Chris Dixon can tell you about this, but you get one good size order and that could make your whole friggin' year. So just get out there and just keep, beating the bushes and finding something. Golf courses, gun clubs, country clubs, any of that kind of stuff. People are always looking for unique, interesting, locally crafted products. And all you got to do is get your foot in the door. Letty Lou mentioned using Canva. Canva is got to be one of the best self-promotion products out there. It's free and it allows you to create beautiful looking promotional graphics without putting a whole lot of work into it. Now, another one of my favorite things for property management is realtors, but also Brian from the Lots Project mentioned this. Hit up realtors. Cutting boards would be an awesome housewarming gift. And I'm not sure if it was him or Josh who mentioned it, but they said they loved working for realtors because they rarely ever haggled over the price and they would bring you work in bulk quite often. So imagine just partnering with a single realtor who says, I'm going to supply one of these boards to as a housewarming gift to every single house I sell this year. Now, if they sell 10 houses, that's 10. If they sell 100, that's 100. If you give them a bit of a break in the price, whatever it is, but you're getting your product in front of eyeballs. And how great would it be to have a built-in market right away? And the great thing about them is they tend to not haggle. They're just like, yeah, okay, that's the price. We're talking a $300,000-$400,000 house. They're not going to care that it's a $50, cutting board or anything like that. But we do these kind of, I don't even want to exercises with different people in the community. And the thing is, even if they don't take a single piece of advice we give them, what's great about having these conversations with like-minded individuals is it's going to spark your brain. That's what I always say about those 10 tips you've never heard before videos. Well, you know what? There's a good chance I've heard 9 of them, and maybe I've heard 10 of them. But just listening to the tips will be enough to spark my brain, make some kind of mental synapse connection and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to fix this, or there's my solution. And you guys helped me, even though you didn't give me the solution. You helped me formulate the solution in my brain. And that's what's great. It's just incredible about having a good community with that kind of stuff. So yeah, if that's what you're looking for, we had 2 or 3 people join the Telegram group this week that said, I came over to get a kick in the ass because I want to start XYZ and I need people who are willing, who are fellow get shit doners. Is that a term? I don't know. I'm going to steal it if it is. So come by, share your ideas, or say, I don't have an idea. Help me. And I will promise you one thing. We'll definitely help you the first time. And if you come back and say, look what I've done. We had today, I believe it was U.S.A come back and showed us his very first pictures of a landscaping job he did. How proud. And there's just so many people getting shit done in there. So I wanted you guys to have a taste of how that community works. And if you need a metaphorical or a literal kick to the behind to get you up and get you going and start something great, then that's the place to come and do it. Now, last segment of the evening. You guys remember, we need a name for this segment, and I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it's going to be on Saturday evening sometimes. So a while back, I found kind of an interesting article about a really grumpy lady who came from away. She's living in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and she was doing her best to piss off her neighbors. And she bought land that was rightfully hers. And the whole story broke down to how would you guys handle this? So this article this week, open for discussion, is a little different. It's a little funnier. I'm not 100% sure if it's preparedness related, but it cracked me up. It tickled my fancy. I wanted to share the article with you, and maybe you guys, maybe it'll get your creative juices flowing. I don't know. But the title is There's an Awful Smell in Calgary. If you guys don't know where Calgary is, that is the largest city in Alberta. So here's goes. It says, there's something rotten in the southeast corner of Calgary, and the city intends to get to the bottom of it. Specifically, the problem is a most odoriferous smell that residents in some communities have been noticing since they've been spending more time outdoors. Local resident was interviewed, and he says it's been pretty atrocious for weeks on end now, and it's getting really, really bad. They got to do something about it. So it all breaks down to there's this smell in the south end of Calgary that nobody can really figure it out. Some people say it smells like wet garbage. Some people say it smells like tires. Other people say it smells like dead bodies. Now, in the south end of town, apparently there is a landfill and there is a composting facility, but nobody really seems to know what is causing the nasty smell. This one here, he says, this Shelley says it smells like rotting, like a sour kind of rotting smell. I don't like it. Well, no shit. Nobody likes bad smells. Has anybody ever had this kind of scenario play out before? Have you ever had to track down? So this was something that kind of got me thinking. I'm like, how would you even figure out where a smell like this was coming from? I mean, I would think the first thing you would do is pay attention to the way the wind's blowing. So as soon as you smell it, say, okay, which way is the wind blowing? It has to be coming from that direction, because people say they can't smell it all the time. The odor seems to come and go, but the biggest question, they said, is what's the source? The landfill apparently is not the cause of the problem, Spencer said. At times there can be odors coming from the city's composting facilities. They said it's also possible the smell emanates from nearby farmers' field or wetlands. Now, this year it's been wetter in Alberta than normal. So it could be that things dried up a metric shit ton last year and exposed some new nasty stuff. And when it rains, it gets grosser. I don't know. They said it has been drying out and getting worse during the recent stretch of hot weather. Apparently the city has hired a contractor to do monitoring at its compost facilities, and the scrubber at the compost facilities is due for a replacement. So they have filters in there that help release of smell. Supervisor for the city said no odors have been detected in the vicinity of the composting facility. There's been almost no hauling of compost from the facility at all, no loading or hauling of finished compost at all. Odor management is one of our priorities. We invested in an odor control system to filter that out. Large biofilters are used to reduce odors before exhausting air from the building. While the search for the source of the stench continues, local councillor is encouraging residents to call the city's 311 service when they detect the smell on the breeze. So local government is useless as usual. Oh, did I say that out loud? I meant it. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? First off, it doesn't seem like it's a health issue, but it does seem like it's affecting people's quality of life for, living and playing outdoors, because of course we only have a short time of the year to enjoy life outside. So what would you guys do, I guess, is the question. I remember growing up, our house was north of the landfill, and when they used to burn the garbage and the wind would blow the right way, it would smell to high heavens. Now, so Food by Dave says storm sewers due to increased rainfall. Now, that's a suggestion that I hadn't thought of, because that could be really nasty. I mean, okay, so there's one thing here that a lot of people don't deal with very often, but I don't think this is the situation. But we have a ton of oil wells and natural gas wells in Alberta, and they off-gas H2S, and it can be a very rotten egg, sulfury smell. But this doesn't seem to fit that at all. But yes, storm sewers could be. Over on Telegram, we had a jinx come up here. Josh says, if the smell's getting worse as it dries up, that makes me think that the water would be otherwise running that is not. Stagnant water goes anaerobic. Is there a sewage or storm drain system that's drying out creeks? I'm going to guess something industrial is the cause. And I think you might be right. So something I've noticed over the last 2 summers is, so we have sloughs here. And if you guys don't know what a slough is, it tends to just be a low point where water collects. Water doesn't flush in or out. It's just a low point on the prairies, and it tends to be kind of nasty. You'd never want to swim in it or drink it. Now, a lot of them, of course, what happens is as they evaporate, the junk gets left behind. It gets more and more concentrated. And there's been a lot of places over the last 2 years that have gone completely dry. So all that is left is that nasty brown residue that's been left behind. So I'm wondering maybe if that could be a cause of it too. Like you said, things drying out, then getting damp again when we've had this increase in rain. I don't know. Humidity seems to be a factor in this as well. So what would you do? I guess if you were living out in the country and you had to figure out where that smell was coming from, you'd have to take matters in your own hands and start, following your nose, like Toucan Sam would say, and going in the direction of the wind until you figure it out. But if it was something you couldn't change, what do you do? How do we learn to live with something like that? I don't know. I thought it was kind of an interesting thought experiment. I mean, I guess you could wear like a damp do-rag over your face if you had to go outside. But I also think that us as modern humans probably aren't nearly as good at living with smells as our predecessors were. So, you ever notice that when you raise pigs, you get used to the smell of pigs? Even though pigs smell like shit, you can at least get used to it. But a lot of times maybe your neighbors don't appreciate it too much. And we get used to whatever smells we learn to live with. And what do they call that? Nose blind? But this is different. I don't know. This is something, like they said, it almost seems factory or industrial based. But I will keep you guys in tune. I'll definitely fill you in on what happens. I'm kind of interested. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes the goddamn government to figure out what the problem is, and then to come up with an environmentally plausible solution that only costs taxpayers $10 million this year. And, it's just one of them like stories that the news grabs a hold of and runs with and deals with. But yeah, so anyway, 2 things for you guys this week. Number 1, if you see an interesting news story, share it with me. Send it to me. If you think it warrants discussion, I'd love to do this once a week, or maybe at least once a month to twice a month. And number 2, if somebody can come up with a name for this segment, I always, on Saturday evenings, I do the weekly workshop where I fill you in on what I've been doing, projects and that sort of thing. But what can we call this? Because I'd love to make it a regular or semi-regular part of our Saturday shows. So how has everyone else been? Anybody else? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So Food by Dave. I was just going to ask for questions. So let me open up my water here, guys. Okay. Any tips for removing extremely stubborn caulking between tub and tub surround? It really depends. If it's silicone, it's a pain in the nuts. But I have had my absolute best luck using a razor blade scraper. Sometimes I've actually just taken a standard, kind of cocaine razor blade. I don't know why I would call it that, but anyway, a standard old razor blade, put a little bit of tape around it, or gloves, or put something on your fingers and just go along and use the blade itself. That's honestly what I ended up having to deal with. Oh, I like that. So yeah, if you're looking at coming up with a way to remove it, there are caulking removers out there. Some people have used acetone, paint thinner, that kind of stuff. But what I find is if it's silicone and it's on kind of that porcelain type, honestly, good old mechanical use is the best. That's what I like. Goo Gone's good for softening it up, or Goof Off. They both work really well. But to be honest, nothing beats a mechanical razor blade for scraping it. Just be really, really careful. That's what we ended up having to use in my bathroom, because the removal products that I bought just weren't up to snuff for doing it. Just be careful while you're doing it. keep it kind of at a 10 degree to 20 degree angle. You don't want to go too close to a 45 because then you're going to end up scraping things. You want to get behind it and just work your way slow and find yourself a set of patience because it takes time to do that kind of stuff. But honestly, my suggestion, Dave, is use a mechanical means. Get yourself, find a product you like that'll soften it, but to get rid of the rest of that residue, and especially if it's silicone, use a razor blade and just get under it and scrape. So just kind of, I don't know how to, so not really scrape, but kind of put a little bit of downward pressure and get my hand in there and then slide the blade back and forth as you move along. And I find that'll get under it. And do a quick job first, go along and get the majority of it out, then go back and hold your tongue right and get rid of the last of the residue. That would be, that's my suggestion. That's what I've used, and that's what's worked really good for me over the years. So Josh, Liberty Meat says, loose screws, the nuts and bolts of the latest news. Hey, if nobody else comes up with a suggestion, I like that. So if you guys like that, I don't mind that at all. Nuts and bolts of the latest news. Let's bring this up here. Yeah. So that's Josh over on Telegram. Yet another, pretty good, addition over there. I'm telling you, every time I'm looking for some kind of suggestion, well, they're really good at telling me where to go and how to get there. But the Telegram group is great for that. And you are very welcome, my friend Dave. It's great to have you here. I always love seeing names that I don't 100% recognize every time. If anybody has any other questions, or if you got any projects you want to brag about, bring them up here while we're talking, and we can definitely deal with them. Tomorrow, I've got a good one coming on tomorrow night. I have Joel from Canine Fortress coming on. He's going to talk about protection dogs and dogs in general. So I may just ask him what the hell's wrong with my chihuahuas, and we'll see what he says. But no, it's going to be great. We're going to try to do a simulcast live stream. So if I can make it work, I know he's interested in streaming it on his outlet as well. So we should have that, but it's going to be great. I was late getting back with him this week, as you guys know, whatever, something, we had lots on the go in the Cook household, but he was gracious and said, oh no, I'm good to go. So it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait. I believe he's going to be at prepper camp as well. So that's going to be cool. Get to meet him in person. So that'll be great. Or it might be Self-Reliance Festival. I'm not sure, but either way, it's going to be good. So if you guys have suggestions for segments on these Saturday night shows, send them my way. I said, if you got any news stories that you'd like me to cover, or just questions in general, it would be great. And if you're new here and you want to become part of the Telegram group, come by, hit that subscribe button. It'll be awesome. Anyway, guys, I think we will wrap it up here. We had some good conversations, and I appreciate it because I know it's still summer. It's Saturday night, and this crazy feller is live streaming, and then he expects you to come in here and listen to him. No, I'm just kidding. I don't expect you guys ever to be here. I expect you to be out, getting shit done, building great things, hanging out with your family, and making the best use of your time that you can on a Saturday night. That's why I'm always here. It's recorded. I'll do these live if nobody's here. But we had a great audience tonight, and I appreciate you guys. I always do. So tune in tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. And we'll talk about dog protection with Joel from Canine Fortress Canine. Anyway, guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.